Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michaeldseville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good to see you one more time.
It's been a long time.
It feels like.
It's been a long time. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Community Beacon. We are here each and every Friday night at 6:30. We appreciate you guys for checking in. We appreciate you guys for liking, loving, sharing, getting the message out. What exactly is we need that we like to talk about. Man, this is an exciting month that we're having here at Community Beacon. Of course, it is Happy Father's Month. Every week.
Happy Father's Month. Yeah.
Happy Father's Month. Oh man, am I still choppy? Can you hear me?
Brother. A little bit.
Let me try to fix this. I'll try to get through this and I'll fix it as soon as we get a break. Guys, every Monday night, we're doing What It Takes. Motivational Mike Mondays is what it says on the screen. Check in with me, just
you
right
changed the name though. What's the new name?
I don't know.
You said, oh man, what was it that you called it? I was watching it the other day, and something about what's next. No, that was Lou's old show. I got to figure out what you named it.
I don't know, guys. Forgive me. And then I don't know. It's Friday. It's Friday. It's Happy Father's Month. So I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. And then of course, this month or for the next couple of weeks, what we'll be talking about. Let me see if this makes sense to adjust the mic volume. What we'll be talking about is, we're doing some sales, we're doing marketing, branding, some foundational business stuff that I think is missing in a lot of our entrepreneurial businesses. Things that just that are the lifeblood of your business. I know what you're laughing at too. And of course, I saw, and she's right too. Anna is right, guys. What we're laughing at, Anna wrote in the background. It looks like George is about to be taken. It looks like Joel is about to be taken by the Lord.
That's it, y'all. Bring it out.
You know what it is? It's the rain.
That's it. I'm going no jacket today, y'all. That's it. No
It's
jacket today.
it's the rain right now, guys. The rain has my mic choppy. Is the mic still choppy?
Yeah, just a little
Oh
bit.
my
Just a little
god.
bit.
And of course, I think she's referring to the light, Joe. It's the light behind you that looks like you're being taken, like
Oh, so I should have left the jacket on,
the
huh?
jacket. The jacket was fine. That light, I believe, it's probably to your left. Yeah, that exact one looked like the Lord is. It's the rapture. So
Ah, oh.
we
Y'all see what they got me doing? I'm running around taking my jacket off, turning lights around and stuff like that.
guys, we're gonna get it together.
It's love, y'all. It's love.
I promise you, we're getting it together. Of course, Wednesdays. It starts with me, guys. It starts with me Wednesdays, 12:30, over that Tenacity Foundation. Joe, who do you have on the next episode? Who's coming up on It Starts With Me?
We got Bob Pritchard coming on up June 15th. You all are going to enjoy him. Great individual, bringing a lot of value to the program. So please come on, and be a part of this program because we're gonna have a good time. We'll have a good time. Yeah, Bob Pritchard. Yeah, I
Bob
love it.
Pritchard. Sound like somebody I know. Bob Pritchard. Seems like a name meant for show business or something. So you all check out Bob Pritchard on Wednesdays. Uh, Go
Well,
ahead.
Bob Pritchard, the thing about him is he brought together logos. You remember when I was telling you about that?
Okay.
The
Okay.
logos program. Well, he used to be the CEO. He's the co-founder of Logos Bible Application. He's been around for 30 years. This guy is a genius, absolute genius. And actually, there's a giveaway at the end of that program. He gives away a book. So there's a code at the end of the program. Watch the program. There's a code that he's going to give away, and you can jump into a book. He's written a few books, but he likes to give them away because he likes to see young people be developed. So with all the stuff that he's learned, he sells the book, but the book he only sells them for like $2.99 because he wants everyone to be able to afford it. That was the reason why he wrote the book. I mean, that's the type of guy he is. It's a lot of value. I've got the book. I've been reading the book myself, and I like it. It's very, very well written, easy to understand, and it's good stuff. It's good stuff. So you'll
Awesome.
enjoy it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're talking about books. For those of you guys who know, I'm also reading 2 books this month. I'm reading what is it? Oh my gosh, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow
Mhm.
Rich. I'm also reading the book The 4 Agreements. And since Bob's giving away books, I think we can give away a book too. I actually have an extra copy. I actually have an extra copy of The 4 Agreements. So if you want this book, if you want this copy, please engage with our with the community beacon tonight, and say, hey, Mike, I don't know, should there be like a catchphrase? we'll we'll give you a
Yeah.
catchphrase in the middle of the show. So I'm going to be giving away this book. At some point, Anna nudged me and say, Mike, and Anna, you come up with the catch. You come up with the saying, and then the first person who actually comments this saying and put this into the comments, where I'm going to send this book to you. Okay, so I got an extra copy of 4 Agreements. Anna's gonna give me some kind. I don't even know what Anna's gonna come up with, and if it's Anna, I'm already hesitant that I told Anna to do it. She's gonna have me say something crazy, but I'm gonna give away the 4 Agreements. So you all stay tuned and stay listening, and you'll get a 4 Agreements book sent to you, courtesy of the Community Beacon.
I love it.
Perfect. So today's Friday. Friday, 6:30. We're gonna get you ready to jump right into it, or what do you think?
Let's get in there, man. Let's
Without
make something happen here.
without much ado or further delay. Without further delay, we're gonna get into Happy Father's Month, guys. Tonight we're going to be going over fatherhood in regards to the legacy and the morals and ethics. It's not gonna be a boring conversation. We're gonna have a good time on this one. fatherhood in regards to legacy, morals, and ethics. When you hear ethics and morals, you might think that it might be a sleeper. I think this will be one of our better episodes. What do you think?
I know that when we had this discussion, I said we should have just recorded it right there because I was like, wow, man, we got so deep into it.
Yeah.
Didn't even really expect to get that deep into it, but
Yeah.
I think it just kind of opened up, and it was like, man, this is really stuff that we need to be discussing. I mean, this is like stuff that you need to be around the table with your children discussing.
Yeah.
This is important, and I think that that's part of where we're headed with this. Is like, when it comes down to legacy, what exactly is legacy? And I guess I'm kind of jumping into it. What do you say, bro?
Yeah, let's jump into it. What is legacy? And if you don't mind, put how we're defining legacy. We want to define some of the things that we'll be talking about tonight.
Did we even finish there? I don't even know. Let's just keep going. Let's run.
I think we started with legacy and then we finished on Pluto when we were done yesterday. Definitely would have been a nice sizzler reel. So legacy in regards to fatherhood. This is actually one of the dictionary definitions of legacy. It says an amount of money or property left to someone in a will, a thing handed down by a predecessor. That's what's a that is what we're defining as a legacy. Interesting thing is that a lot of these things that we're talking about in Community Beacon, really getting to the beginning of it, one of the reasons why we started Community Beacon was in regards to our legacy. Having something that is actually documented, it's on video. Any of our children, any of our grandchildren, great grandchildren, etc., can exactly see, well, what was grandfather, father, great grandfather Mike and Joe doing at this time? What were some of the things that they were being guided on, and why were they so relevant, and why are they relevant to us? Right? Like it's not being lost. This is so great. We're at a time in history where history is no longer just being passed down from what people remember or what they thought, or through certain stories or from certain lights. You can actually pass down the history that we have from our lips to their ears, right? Like, so it's like it's definitely, it's in there. It'd be really cool if all of a sudden I get a comment and it's from one of my great grandkids who figured out a way how to traverse through time. Here we got
something.
Yeah, we got.
How can the average person leave a legacy of it were never taught to them and they don't have anything? How can the average person leave a legacy if it were never taught to them and they don't have anything? Exactly. So Kenyatta, I love this, because here's like the issue with the whole concern. The definition binds legacy in such a way that it's almost like it's tangible. And you all remember what was that, Mike? February, I think you said the other day, February or March, something like that, where we talked about legacy. It's like, the definition, what we're giving you all is more our take on legacy, right? So it's not just that, legacy is like these things that can be defined. It's my money, it's my property, it's my house. But what about the intangible assets that we are leaving behind? And those of us that understand legacy now. So maybe at one point in time it was the aristocrats, and the wealthy that were leaving behind legacy, and they planned this. They wrapped their legacy up in trust. And I think that is important. There needs to be some type of tangible asset that can be passed down to give greater value to the legacy and desire for the legacy to be carried on. But at the end of the day, what is that legacy if there is no knowledge that is passed? There is no wisdom. There's no understanding. So one of the things that we were discussing on yesterday in our Community Beacon meeting was the whole thought process behind the David and Solomon legacy, and these being two extremely prominent characters in Old Testament biblical days, because when the king David left the kingdom to his son Solomon, they actually skipped over a child and went into Solomon. And it was because of the intangible assets that were being passed down. There were spiritual assets being passed down. There was knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that was being passed down. And there was the rights to rule in a specific pattern. What does that mean for like me today? It means that it's more than just saying, hey, son, this is the house. And that's it. It's like, this is the house. Now that you have it, I want you to keep the house or sell it and buy 2 houses so that you can leave 2 houses. But the rules have to be kept, so that the legacy can only grow and be built. And I think that that's really important, because like what Kenyatta was saying is like, the average person, how can the average person leave a legacy if they've never been taught? And this goes back to like a philosophy, and I want Mike to jump in, that I teach. It's those that are mentored must mentor, so that you never lose the essence of what has been mentored or what has been taught. So if Mike was my dad and he is teaching me, then I should be teaching my son. And so when my son takes my spot, as soon as he has a son or a child, he should be teaching them, and so on and so on and so on, so that the wealth of knowledge, the pool of knowledge only grows. It gets greater. So we should be mentoring as we are mentored. We should be leaving the foundational elements as we are receiving them. As I learn to put hammer to nail, I should be teaching how to put hammer to nail and greater, in order for a legacy to be developed. What'd you say, bro? Now, I think Mike, okay, come on. So now Mike's having a little bit of trouble with that microphone, but he's going to have in just a minute. Let me see what Kenyatta is saying right there. She said, for me, keeping my parents' legacy of love, being a giver, and their being is what I focus on when I speak of legacy. So I love this, because once again, we're talking about intangible assets, right? This is an intangible asset. This is not a charm that you can pass on and your child can always remember you by. But this is Kenyatta saying, the way that she was loved, how she felt, she passes that on, being a giver and their being, and so that's important. Intangible assets, y'all. That's huge when it comes down to legacy. And I think that that's something that we need to discuss. It needs to be discussed. This is something that I discuss with my children. I teach my children about love. I teach them about giving, and how the greatest receiver is actually the greatest giver. And that's something that was passed on by my mentor, Daddy Bailey, Bishop Bailey. So he taught us the greatest receiver is the greatest giver. The thing is that you cannot receive something with a closed hand. And if you have something in your hand, you have to release it first before you can receive something else. So I'm 100% with you on that, Kenyatta. I pass down love to my children, and I hope that they're able to receive the love that I'm passing down, but I pass that down. And in order for me to receive love, I have to give it. And I think that that's a powerful statement, because sometimes as parents, we feel as if we may not be able to show that type of affection towards a child, especially towards young men, because we want them to be strong. And so sometimes we want to hold back. But I think that maybe what we need to do is actually give more, right? Give more. and not to the point where we're babying children and growing up children that are incapable of making firm decisions because they've been sheltered so much, but children that are very much capable, that they understand their value, they understand their worth, they understand they understand the highs and the lows of life. I think those things are important. Now, Anna also said in the background, a trust fund. And I think that's, once again, now we're talking about tangible things, and how tangible things can make a difference. So now when we're putting trust funds in and we're writing down the rules of our legacy, and I think that that's important as well. But guys, girls out there, when it comes down to these types of things, it's like, what exactly are we doing to make sure that these things are happening? How are we making sure these things are happening? And all of this type of stuff takes communication, conversation. It takes us doing exactly what we are talking about doing now. Because here's the deal. I'm not oblivious to what is going on today. When my parents were coming up, or my grandparents were coming up, or my great-grands were coming up, they had to go through a plight of different types of scenarios. Great-grandparents had to go through different types of situations in their life that caused them to do whatever it was. They had to escape certain types of circumstances in life that pitted them in situations. But now that they have left a legacy that children were able to see, and I think that that's big, right? You with us, bro?
Mic check, mic check.
Perfect. I think that leaves us, and you're perfect timing, because I want to pitch this to you also, because the thing is like, I think that left us in a specific type of atmosphere, right? So if we go back years ago, children didn't have all of this stuff that we have. They didn't have cell phones to jump on. They didn't have computers to jump on, right? Because like internet became big in 1993. So that was still in my lifetime. 1993, internet became big. And we're talking about within 25 years, just under, right around 30 years, something like that. Internet became big, which includes a whole lot of people in our age category, So before that, how did you know what your parents were doing? How did you grow? How did you learn? It was all by seeing. It was all by hearing. And in those days, I remember when I was coming up, children were meant to be seen and not heard. So we learned a whole lot. So a lot of legacy was passed on by the way people's intangible legacy was passed on by the way children saw their parents act. That's how they got it. By the things that they heard, but they never said anything about. Especially like our parents, maybe not all of our parents, but we are from the generation of parents who didn't say a word around their parents. Our parents didn't say a word around our grandparents, because the grandparents would, they'd give them a little knock.
The silent generation.
It was, right?
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. So, I mean, what's your take on that, brother?
I love it. I know yesterday we kind of got into history because it's so impactful in regards to, I mean, you got to know where you came from to know where you're going, right? And so I really went into depth because history originally was passed, from what you were told. A lot of these things that we know that if we went back in history that am I frozen or is Joe frozen? Am I still here? Can you all hear me? Mic check, mic check. Okay, perfect. I guess that's Joel that's frozen. So we spoke a little bit yesterday in regards to how things were passed down from the child to the, oh, excuse me, from the parents to the child. And here was the thing is that at the time you used to have the mothers who were in the, okay, perfect. I'm glad you can hear me, Kenyatta. The mothers were, and they still are to some degree, were the first teachers of the children, while the father was out working for the most part. um and now we've gotten to a time, like Joe mentioned, the internet originally, internet in 1993, to where a lot of this stuff that our kids are getting, and what they're, well, Joe's having a power outage. Okay, God bless Joe. um a lot of our, okay, perfect, I got it. So a lot of our people, now we live in a society where these kids are, I mean, I want to say from the age of maybe 2. I don't know. My son might be. My son is 1. I have a 14-month-old, and he almost understands the phone and what it entails. I saw one of my nephews who had a phone, and he can already maneuver YouTube. And so we're at an age where I see Joe's resetting his internet. He'll be back. We're at a time and age where you got two parents who have left the household, and then you have, and or not left the household, you have two parents who have to work, essentially. Most homes take two incomes in order to get by, right? You need two incomes. But we're also inundated with all of this information. We're getting all of this information. We're getting all, whether it's right or wrong, TV, and I would more so just say the phone and the internet, your iPad, etc. And you no longer have these parents. I would even wager to say that when I was coming up, a lot of us were raised more than likely by the TV, by the radio, etc., because of the two-parent household situations. This is maybe since like the 70s or so, 60s, 70s, when two parents had to work in order to make something happen. So now it's like we need to be more intentional. Of course, this is Father's Month, so let's talk about the fathers here. Fathers need to be have to intentionally be in their children's lives. And it's interesting because maybe, to some mothers, etc., may almost can seem as if, yep, raised by grandma. Yeah, but grandma's tired. I know by the time I came around, from my understanding, um, grandma was, grandma is not raising the kids like a strong parent will. Heck, if you got 3, 4 kids, you notice that the babies, the youngest in the families normally get away with, heck, because the parents have already went through the first two, first raising the first two kids or something. So these things kind of get away. But I agree. The grandma, which you Kenyatta, the grandmas are raising. Um, I like to get into the narrative of the fathers, which was interesting. This is a great conversation because I had a conversation with a young man today. He's about 20 years old, very astute young man, coming out with his own clothing line. I think it's called Young in Faith. He has a favorite. He has a zeal for the Lord, and he wants to be a motivational speaker. And I actually went on his internet and saw a couple of speeches. But then he mentioned something. He said he's coming out with a show in where he's going to be interviewing these different families, because he's saying he's seeing, just like we kind of mentioned, that the families, the parents aren't necessarily in the household. So and how to connect with their children, what parents can do to connect with their children. And so one of the things he mentioned, and that I want to get into, was that he said he was interviewing these different families, different demographic families. He said he had a white family, he had a Spanish family, he had a black family, and he mentioned this one. So he mentioned the black family. He said where the father was, what did he say about the father? He said the father is really into their kids' lives. So he's excited about putting the show on because he says the stereotype in the black community is that fathers aren't in their children's lives. Now, statistically, and when you do the research, you find out that black fathers, they say statistically, are the most involved in their children's lives when they're allowed to be. They're the most involved. But there's a narrative that's portrayed as if that's not the case. And see, the narrative almost supersedes the reality, because where are we learning all this thing? Where are we learning these things from? Most of these, it's entertainment. It's the movies, it's the TV shows, it's the music, the radio play, etc. So it's like these things aren't necessarily being brought up. So which makes it more, even though this it's a narrative and it's a stereotype and it's a false narrative, you have to be very aware how a false narrative can become the actual narrative. It can almost become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So in order to combat these different false narratives, it's more important for fathers to be intentional about being in their children's lives, about instructing the children. One of the things that we spoke about yesterday and during our pre-show show, was about, what was it, Joel? About us being intentional, not only intentional, but taking more part of lives. And I know you're back, brother. So how do you feel about that?
Man, I think you're hitting right on it. I think you're hitting right on it. And I think when you use that word intentional, I think that's powerful. And I think that also lends to, like what King Yada was saying. And I got this message, right? I got this message from Brother Rick. And he said, see one, do one, teach one. Our children are a mirror of what they see in their parents. Put the Lord first while working on leaving your legacy. We have to make the choice to always do the right thing. And right there, I think that what he was saying goes exactly with what you're saying there, Mike, and what we talked about before, because, we have the opportunity to now be intentional on what we're doing, and Mike, this is going back to my example of, maybe not our parents, but if you go back to a minimum grandparents, they didn't always have the opportunity to necessarily say, hey, this is what you need to do, because they were, especially coming from the Black community, because there was so much fighting for civil rights. It was like you learned real quick exactly what you needed to do because you saw the results of what would happen if you did X or you did Y. It was immediate. You saw repercussions of choosing certain things over other things. And so I believe that without all of the devices that are in the world today, parents were able to show their children exactly how to live a life that will give them longevity. And they taught their children because it was imperative that their children knew exactly how the world worked and how they could make it. And that was legacy building. Mm-hmm. Now, if you fast forward, 50, 60 years into our lifespan, it's like parents, mother and father, if we have two in the house, both are working. Sometimes they're working 2, 3, 4 jobs to take care of their families. And the development of the children is sometimes placed on the back burner. It's like, hey, listen, that's what the school is supposed to be doing. That's why I got them in aftercare, because I got to get this. Mm-hmm. If we keep on getting this, then our children are getting nothing. And what we will get in the end is somebody who will not pay attention to us when we get old. Somebody who will leave us inside of a nursing home if there's one available. Somebody who will not show up to the hospital room when we are lacking the attention. And so nurses and doctors will give us whatever they desire to, because nobody is giving us the attention and speaking up for us. This is a legacy also.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. I even and on another note, and that's dealing with yourself. I was talking to my father today, and I was talking about how important it is for a parents or fathers. And I'm speaking to my father to know their children. It's very
Ooh,
important for when that goes back to the David and Solomon conversation that we were having a little bit earlier. It was
yeah.
important for David to know his children. Otherwise, he could live by, it would have been probably passed down to Absalom, as opposed to Solomon. It's important for us to know exactly, the reasoning to it, and and believe who your children are because you raised them. I think one of the funniest things, not funniest, one thing I remember someone told me was that because you get a lot of accolades when you're raising your kids. If as long as you keep you keep them in decent clothes, fresh clothes. And what I mean fresh, I mean clean clothes, not necessarily the best styles, but clean clothes. You keep a roof over their head. You make sure that they're fed, and people will say, "Oh man, you're a great parent." You're a great parent. Look at your child. And here's the actual case of it. The case is that you don't necessarily know you're not going to know that you're a great parent until the child becomes old and you can see the fruit that you
Oh,
that you have,
oh man. Come on
right?
now.
Like we don't know. But when that child hits about 25, 30, and we're taking a look at what was produced, right? Like that's when you actually know. You're looking at them and saying, uh, what did I have? What am I having? What happened when this child is 16, 17, 18? You know what I mean? Code to be written for the book. God is a bountiful fountain. Okay, that's the code. Anna's got the code. I didn't write it. Anna's good. Code to be written for the book. So if you want the book, first person right in there. God is a bountiful fountain. I will be sending you the book that's the four agreements if you're with us. So if you want the four agreements, write that in there. Perfect. Manny, shouts out to Manny. And Manny, who's a realtor here in Palm Beach County. Man, I remember him and I had a conversation. And Manny, I don't know if you quite remember this, but we were speaking about that, about how much work goes into what it is that we're doing in regards to prospecting, sales, and just real estate, maintain your household, etc. At the same time, taking time out to be with your children. I totally understand that everybody wants to be titans of industry. Elon Musk working 16, 17, 18 hours and becoming billionaires. It's very important for us to juxtapose that to getting to be around and with our children. Because if you're gone 16, 17, 18 hours out the day, and yeah, maybe you do end up making the money. However, what about one of your most precious investments? How about one of your most precious assets, your children? What will they have to say about you? Are they,
Yeah.
you may get all these accolades from outside of the house. What are the people who are closest to you saying about you? Your children, your wife, the people, the people that are closest to you. Are they, what's going on with it? What goes on with that? Go ahead, brother.
Yeah,
I'm
100%. And because like I was talking to B earlier today about the same conversation, right? Because there was an interview with Kobe Bryant, and they were asking Kobe, like, well, what does it take? What does it take? And he's like, what does it take? Waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. What does it take? Going to bed at 10, 11 o'clock at night. He was explaining that he only needs 3 to 4 hours of sleep because he's putting in work.
mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, how did that affect your family? That's how the conversation went. And he was like, he especially was exposing the relationship outside of his nesting family, right? Extended family, at a fingertip, and he was like, listen, the people that love you begin to understand that you're putting in this work. You're putting in this work, and I think that that's important for all of us to understand that, as Mike just said, titans of your industry, as we're putting in that work, we have to understand that this is a choice that we're making, and that
Mm-hmm.
that choice is separating us from many, many, many people. You're making that choice. You have to be intentional with that. You have to be clear. And I thought that it was very strong for Kobe to say that he was clear. It was intentional. He was doing it. Now, when he got around his people, when he made the time to be around his people, he would celebrate them, you know? And I think that that's important too. Quality over quantity. You know, if I'm around you for 8 hours, but the whole time I'm texting, you know, and my mind is somewhere else, what good is my 8 hours of time?
Yeah.
It might be better just for me to give you 2 hours of 100% Joel. I mean, 100%. You get me, you know, whatever that is, whatever the 100% is, that's what you get. But I think that this is very important when we start to talk about Father's Month. When we're talking about Father's Month, it's like, okay, fathers, it's intentionality is extremely important, you know? So what is it? You know, you're living in a certain condition where you cannot afford and you have to work those 2 jobs. Make it very clear. Let's get out of this whole thing where we're hiding everything, like we're protecting the entire world. We're protecting our children. We're protecting everybody by, you know, just going to work and coming home grumpy and all this type of stuff. No, make it intentional. I told this to my wife. We had this discussion and she was like, well, in order for me to do XYZ on today, it's going to cause me pain tomorrow. I said, well, listen, this is what I do when I come into these types of situations. I make it very intentional. I say to myself, in order for me to do what I need to do today, it's going to cause me pain tomorrow or the day after. I accept it because what I need to do today is very important. And so if I don't get the rest, if I don't get the sleep, and I know that tomorrow it's going to have an effect on me, I'm not going to take that out on my children. I'm not going to take it out on my wife because they did not make that decision for me today. Instead, what I will do, as you know, old school words, I'm going to soldier up. I'm going to put my belt on extra tight, y'all. I'm going to drink 3 more cups of coffee, y'all, because tomorrow is my day that I'm hanging out with my family. It's my time with them. I'm not going to give them half of me because I gave somebody else 150% of me on yesterday.
That's big.
I'm going to be intentional. So my legacy is going to be that when Dad showed up, he was all there. They're not going to see my pain because I intentionally knew I was going to be in pain. I knew I was going to be tired. I knew I was going to be hungry. I knew I was going to be sleepy. I knew it. And I chose to do that because whatever I was doing then was that important to me. So when I show up, no excuses, y'all. Kick the excuses out the door. I got to fall over and pass out. Then you can carry me to the hospital and you can say, you know what, Dad gave us all. But if not, if I don't fall over, if I don't pass out, then I'm going to play that game of checkers or chess. I'm going to go swimming. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to sit down and eat ribs. I'm going to cook the ribs, whatever. And I'm not going to complain.
That is the definition of soldiering up. Guys, speaking of soldiering up, because and Joel is definitely, shouts out to Vanny. Yeah, brother. People don't realize how important time is. And it's the only thing we can't get back. Our most precious asset. You better believe it. So every time you choose something else, understand exactly what it is that you're giving up. Or not when you choose something else, when you choose something. When you choose to do something or choose to do nothing, remember what it is that you're giving up. Now, my brother just went off a passionate, and it's a mic drop moment. I want to talk about to some of us brothers. Brothers, I want to talk about the decisions that we're making. Statistics say that I think it's a little over 70% of children, our legacies, are being raised in single parent households. The majority of them being the mothers. Okay. Brothers, I understand. It's not the easiest thing. Remember the decision, but at the end of the day, you made a decision. You made a decision. I get it. You're talking to Uncle Mike here. I've been in fires. Okay. I
Yeah.
want you to remember as a man that there's a couple things that we need to pay attention. One is patience. Guys, if you stick in there and have patience, I want to say there's probably nothing more dangerous than a man with patience. If we go back to the Bible, for all things work to the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Stick in there. We don't know the day or the time, but just stick in there. That's number one. Number two is if you got to soldier up, like Joel said, and fight to be in your children's lives, do just that. I know you might be getting tired. I know certain things may not necessarily make logical sense to you. Stick in there. Because I've seen it too many times, because my generation was a part of this as well, to where we look at our fathers and we say, man, I wish he would have just fought for me. Or why didn't he fight for me? And all the explaining that you could do, saying that, well, I wanted to, but it was just too hard, or man, this, that, and the third. It doesn't matter. Fight for your children. Fight for the right to be with your children. Don't just take off. Don't just move up, move away, soak and pout, and just let it be what it is. Fight for your children. Be patient. Be empathetic. Understand what it is, even in the face of hatred, or however a certain party may feel about you. That has nothing to do with what it is that you need to do. And this is, we're kind of getting to the ethics and morals of being a father here. So I want to preface this as well, or I want to put this in here as well, is that you may not necessarily be aligned with everything that we say, right? What because we feel a certain kind of way, and just through our own experience of what we went through the experiences that that other people have went through, that we've been around and felt the pain of having these conversations. Really, you got to be around people that you can have these conversations with. That's number one. And you got to be around people who can give you some loving, some hard loving advice. When I say hard loving advice, it's things that you may not necessarily want to hear, but just out of just the love for you and wanting to see you do better. Not only to see you do better, but the children do better. Because there's no place that Joe's three kids can be and I'm around that they're not protected.
Mm.
It's just not going to happen. Nobody's going to treat Joe's kids any kind of way while, children any kind of way while I'm there. Right. And I know the same thing will go for me when my children are around and Joel is there. You understand what I mean? So I said that to say this is that they're doing it not only for the love of you, but for the love of your children. You need people around you like that are saying, listen, this is out of love for your children. I have to give you some tough-hearted love right now. It might be that time to soldier up. So that being said, guys, continue. Just it might be a slow road. Who knows when things may open up, but you need to be there. They're watching, and I'm telling you, by the time they hit 7, if you're waiting for them to be 18, 19, 20 to have that conversation with them, a lot of them don't want to hear it at that point. A lot, some children they hit 18, 19, 20, and their minds are already made up. And now they have 20 more years of trying to figure this stuff out, of progress, of awareness, of self-growth, just to get over a hump that you kind of started. Here, what is it? The sins of the father are visited on the children. Some of the things that you're doing are allowing some of these things to continue, this cycle to continue of these relationships towards each other. It's time for us to break that. If it's in your life, if it fits, it ships. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But if it resonates to you, then this is the conversation that needs to be had. It's tough. I'm telling you, I get it. Job said it best. 2 words: soldier up. Soldier up.
Mike, man, you hit something. You hit something so hard and so deep, Mike. I mean, resignation. Yeah, man, that thing hit me hard. You know, brethren, men, fight for your children. Fight for, we fight for so much stuff.
Yep.
We fight for so much. I mean, I remember coming up, we fought for the stupidest things.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't take much to pop off and you'd be fighting. And as we get older, some of us, we're like, you know what? I'm putting those days behind me. Are we fighting for our families? Intangible legacy, going all the way back to what King Yada brought in the very beginning about love. Mike, if it was me, I don't care if my young man or young girl, if she's 18, she's 20, if she's 30, she's 40. I don't care if my children drive me to the point where I don't even know. I'm still going to fight for my children. Fight to love them. Fight to care about them. Fight to help them. And as a man, I feel like that's my responsibility. There's an old saying, my grandmother used to say it, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. And you know what? Maybe it's time to, I respect that saying. I get it. But I brought you in this world, I'm going to help raise you up. I'm going to do what it takes. Because every year I grow, I know that I need to be a little wiser, a little stronger, a little smarter, a little more humble. I call it being high, honest, integrity filled, genuine, and humble. Because the thing about it is, it's like sometimes children, they just don't understand what they got. Mm-hmm. Especially when you're talking about a good dad. And hold on. Sometimes they don't understand what they got when the dad don't know what he's doing. Some dads don't know what they're doing because it was not passed on to them. And we talked about this because there was a comparison. We were talking about David and Solomon, but we also talked about the relationship between David and Jonathan, and David and his father Jesse, and Saul and his son Jonathan, and how David and Jonathan became best friends. They loved each other. But Jesse, the father of David, when the time was come to anoint a new king, he didn't even think about his son David to be anointed. And God had selected him. Sometimes dads miss the mark. Sometimes they don't see it because they only can do what they can do with what they have. Can't do no more. They don't know no more. They just don't have that wisdom, that knowledge, that understanding. And as children, is it really our place to tell our parents what they should have known? Do we accept that from our children? That thing hit heavy, Mike. Because if there's anything, if I'm unable to educate my dad, if he doesn't give me the space, and that's his right to give me the space, if he don't give it to me, who am I to go and take it from him? To manhandle my dad. Does my son get the right to manhandle me? To put me in my place? This is deep. One thing that yeah, man, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bringing up from a prior episode, and first off, just in that, we should be learning from our children,
Mm.
right? As we because if you raise your children, right? If you're raising your children and you're raising them to be exactly what and I love that high, honest, integrity, genuine, and humble. That last part, humble, being humble is the ability to take direction / criticism, that kind of thing. And even if it were to come from our children, because if we instill that love in them, right, they should be one of our most trusted advisors.
But now, Mike, I'm not talking about a trusted advisor. I'm talking about manhandling. The difference.
No,
the difference between the two, and I love that.
There's not that we should not, quote unquote, manhandle our fathers. Like we can't is to push them. And I listen, a personal story between me and my father, because me and my father bump heads. You know what I mean? So so there's the bumping of heads, and at the end of the day, no matter how hot I got it, maybe sometimes I've taken it, past it. It's just like, okay, well, this is still your. So sometimes I look at him, I'm like, okay, he's still my father. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like he's still my father. If he doesn't, but however, if he doesn't allow me that space, then one of the things you wrote, well, not one of the things that you mentioned before in previous episodes, I don't know if it was the last episode or episode prior to that, was I can't change you.
Yeah.
But I can change me.
That's it.
So understanding what it is that you have, especially looking up, teaching up, so to speak, to your father, that you can't change Jonathan and Saul. Right? What was Jonathan going to tell Saul at any point in time? It wasn't too.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's exactly where I'm headed.
Yeah. Saul wasn't listening. Saul didn't want to hear what it was. Saul had it in his mind that he was the king. Here comes this other guy that's not even inside of my lineage. And regardless of how much mercy he's shown me, this is my thought process. And Jonathan loved David, and Jonathan even was giving David information on how to get away and move around. To get actually David had his life in his hands at some point. So it's just like Jonathan had to understand his father. So he didn't. It wasn't if you continue going down this route with David, I'm out of here kind of deal. It was like I got nothing to say to him. Let me go. I can change me and I can deal with this other party. You understand what I mean? So that's the
power of it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's the power of it right there.
Yeah. So I think that message, that it just brought me back to, and I'm looking at it. I'm just looking at the show notes where it says, I can't change you. I can change me. So as a son looking up, this is some humbling stuff. So now this is the best and the most beautiful part about this is that we see that and we understand that dynamic. Now, when Elijah or Paul comes of age and they have something to, they need to come to me to talk to something about, I can at least use this experience and have this wisdom to say, okay, let me give these kids the space. Sit down and actually listen, because some of the things that they say, the things that they say may be very relevant and can cause a change. Now, what's more powerful than a legacy, as we're talking about it now, that goes back and forth, where we can communicate and have these conversations? Go ahead, brother.
And that is what ended up happening with David and Solomon. That's exactly what ended up happening. And that's what I meant by manhandle. We don't manhandle up, like God passes down wisdom to me. I don't fight God, and say, hey, you're wrong. That's not the way it works. I can beseech God, but I can't manhandle him. I can't manhandle my dad. It's like, I came out of his loins. I got to respect him, because if I don't respect him, I'm passing down a legacy to my child. that there's going to come a
Oh
time
my
when I
God.
may be wrong in his eyesight, and he should look up to me and tell me where I need to put my own 2 cents. I'm
This is
passing.
big.
This is intangible. So I need to learn how to speak to the higher up, to the authority. Just like as the authority, I need to be able to speak to the subordinate.
Appreciate you, Musina, for checking in. Musina, another great agent. I think Musina, if you can put where I think you're in DC, if I'm not mistaken, in that area. So put where you the area in Musina. One of my great role play partners, man. I had an excellent time role playing with Musina this week, man. So shouts out to Musina. We definitely learned some stuff to go ahead and to be able to help our clients. Brother, you as you were speaking on that topic, the DMV area. Shouts out to Musina in the DMV area. Got we had a great time role playing this week. This is an agent who's looking to be better for her clients. So if you know anyone in the DMV area, you all shout out Musina down there. Um, like I said, enjoy the role play this week, brother. What you just mentioned is huge, man. Because I just it just gave me a flashback of something that Elijah said to me, where I possibly did not give him the space to say what it was that he said. Now here, of course he's under 18, so he thinks he knows everything. He's under 18 and he think he knows everything. But now that I'm thinking about it, the young man was correct. He's 12 years old and he was speaking some truth. And God and he's going to continue to do that because he's an outspoken young man. You can learn from anything, guys. Like this is, oh man,
But
brothers.
but Mike, where did he get that from?
Yeah, he got it from me. I didn't want to toot my own horn, but I appreciate you.
But I got to. I got to, because
Yeah,
that's the whole point in staying high. The last word being humble.
yeah,
That's where it comes from, right? And that's like our teaching opportunity. It's our teaching opportunity, because at that point in time we get an opportunity to teach our children. Like my little boy, he says some really, really strong stuff. You do something wrong around him, and he's got the intellect and the discernment to be able to pull that thing out. But sometimes it comes out rigid when they're younger. And
yeah,
you have to be able to mentor them, to
yeah,
coach them, to father them up into the ability to speak it well. So
yeah,
you have to actually, you got to put down your rock for a little bit.
yeah,
You got to lower your guard. You got to take that punch just a little bit, especially when they're younger. Because if you don't, when they grow older, they'll just have disrespect and disdain. It changes because their hearts can become hardened. And so for us in delivering these intangible legacy types of things, which that's where we are, we're getting in, this is a deep conversation about intangible legacy. We're talking about morals, ethics, values. We're talking about developing the inner working of a child, and even more of a young man, father to a young man. We're talking about developing that individual, because what will happen is they will take that into the workplace. They'll take that into their family,
mm-hmm.
and it'll continue to morph into what they believe it is. Because no matter what I leave, especially when it's intangible, my child is going to use it the way he sees fit in his mind, in his adult mind.
I'm with it, and I know guys were speaking about the young men, but it's easily transferable to the young women. It's easily transferable to the young women, and it is huge. It's huge. Have a conversation with some people, some of our young ladies now. Have a conversation with some of our young ladies now in regards to their relationships with their fathers, and then take a look at their relationships with the men throughout their lives, husbands, boyfriend, whatever it may be, and you can kind of see, what was the relationship like with their father, and then see how it penetrates as well into their adulthoods. Let me see. I see Musina wrote something, and this is interesting. I just caught a glimpse of it here. And put it up here. He said, I remember when my dad used to sit on the floor with us, four boys and four girls, and talked with us like we were his equal. That was the best thing my parents did to us. I don't know, bro, if you caught that, but did you look at that? Like sitting down and sitting like we were his equal. That's a powerful something as simple as that, bro. It don't take much.
And Musina, the thing about that is like what you're describing. You know, the humility behind that, also the empowerment of the individual, right? Because if I can sit down with my children as if we're equals, then that also elevates my ability that much higher. Because as a child, I realized that I'm not the equal.
Oh,
I have this understanding that, you know, I'm not equal to my father. You know, I have this understanding. Oh, the lights and everything, man. I mean, electricity is attacking right here. They're trying to shut down this episode right here, y'all. Mark this episode down. Share it with young men. Share it with fathers. Share it with mothers, because I believe that there's something very special about this episode, because it just seems as if we've been attacked the entire night. It's like, if y'all will, it's like the enemy just does not want this conversation to be heard. And it needs to be heard. This needs to be spoken about. This is deep.
Let me see. You've seen it said dads matter because he showed me how a woman has to be loved by loving my mom unconditionally. We
I take
all
my
girls
hat
are
off for you right
confident.
now.
Yeah. And know as well as how to respect our husband.
Take my hat off for you.
So it's kind of tough for a young man to talk to the ladies. Ladies, I want you to really pay attention to the relationships that you had with your fathers, and especially if you're in conflict with your child's father or whatever the case may be. I understand. Listen, I wholeheartedly understand the importance of a mother to a child. I don't think there's any question. Nobody's questioning that at all. I would like you to understand the importance of a father to the child and being able to put up certain emotionalities or certain feelings, etc., towards a man that wants to be in his child's life. And please understand from the father's aspect of it, because a mother, I get it. It's almost, there was like no choice. If you're having a child, you got 9 months with that child. You have to birth that child. The child, longs for the mother. You're in there. You're there, and you've developed a bond with your child. It's just as important for a father to develop that bond with that child as well. Hopefully you can find it. Those of us who can understand and have the empathy and the sympathy for the child, for the father and the child, mostly for the child, that both these two dynamics are needed. There's not there's perfect, where we've the statistics are in. The father, especially in this day and age, we're all needed. If they want to be there, be there. As long as it's, if they want to be there, allow them to be there. There's not that many, and here's the next thing, guys, is that there's not that many programs that teach fathers how to become, or excuse me, teach males how to become fathers, or even to help out. Right? It's kind of like, and I think I mentioned this at the last show, is that when I had Elijah, and I can remember with my first night with him alone, without my mother around, without his mother around, it was just me and him. And I had him for the night, and he was an infant. And that baby started crying. Luckily, I had a little bit of practice with my younger brother, but it's still a whole different ball game, you know. And I can't, and because I had to practice with my younger brother, it was a little bit easier, because my younger brother's 10 years younger than I am, so I was able, I was able to kind of raise him as a child, as a baby. But now you have this, and you're responsible for this child. Like you fully responsible. I think as a child, as a kid, a younger kid, I didn't understand it. But as a man who's this is your creation, and you have to make sure that he's safe and he's secure. It's definitely, it's tough, because there's not a lot of classes out there for dads. I'm telling you, I think it's just been recent, as of the last couple of months, where our governor here in Florida, DeSantis, actually passed a law for fathers who want to be in their children's lives. I think that there's a certain amount of money, that grants that were given for organizations to start reaching out to the fathers, to teach them little things. What exactly that you do? What do you do with a child? How to change a diaper, right? And a lot of us don't seek these things. A lot of us don't know these things. So, just I want us to be aware of the importance of this, man. This legacy conversation has been interesting, and I know a lot of it we've been talking about. We've more so been talking about the intangibles, which is very, very important. You know, amongst all other things, to be able to pass these things down. For a moment, while Joel is out, guys, let's talk a little bit about the tangible things. Let's talk about the real estate. Let's talk about the living trust. Actually, it's not going to be enough time. But at some point in time, we will talk, and we've done it before, talking about the real estate, talking about the trust, talking about life insurance, making sure that when it's time for you to go, and we don't know when it is time for us to go, that our families and our children are taken care of, and they're not starting from zero, that they start from a solid foundation. And even more so, you want to prepare these things, because, man, I can't tell you how many times I've seen the bag being fumbled, houses being taken, all kinds of things, because there's no preparation for it. I'm in real estate. I see this happening all the time. This is Musina. Generational wealth starts with us, 1,000%, because the information is there. It's just up to us to go seek it, right? Life insurance is an easy way to have your children get off on the right foot, right? Or at least have some time, because if you're the powerful and an impactful father that you are, it takes a little bit of adjusting after something happens to somebody like that. Integral and key piece for the family to kind of get their balance. And and this is the David to Solomon thing, because listen, David left everything it was for Solomon to build God's temple. David helped to procure all that stuff, right? So that this thing can be built. This is how we have to leave our children, right? We may not see it. I just finished Deuteronomy. Moses is passed, right?
But what you were just talking about right there, so what David left to Solomon, that's a huge just topic, as far as what Musina was saying, generational wealth, what Anna stated about trust funds, what we're talking about as far as leaving our legacy, that's intangible legacy. Like, David not only left the wealth to develop, to build God's house, but then he also left the wealth to carry on the kingdom.
Yeah.
And then he left the instructions on what to do with all of it.
But and here's the thing, because it's a recurring theme in the Bible, of the great ones in the Bible. Because like I said, I'm just finishing Deuteronomy. Moses is passed, but almost the entire time prior to him, in preparation for him to die, Moses is passing and passing it on to Joshua, was him talking about these laws, getting very specific on how you need to carry on. Once you get there, what you're going to do when you get there, who's getting what, how to divide it up. These are the things that we have to start thinking about like now, like right, like
He that is mentored he should mentor, or he that mentors should be mentored. You
yeah,
know, as Moses was mentoring
Joshua,
Joshua, he was being taught by God.
yeah,
So there was no breach in the information. And so when Joshua crossed over the Red Sea and he saw the angel in the pathway, he wasn't afraid of him because he had already learned about him from Moses. He looked at him, he was like, hey, listen, let me ask you a question. Are you here for the enemy or are you here for us? And the angel's like, I'm here for the Lord. I'm on the Lord's side. He said, okay, well, let me sit down and listen to what you got to say. How can you be prepared for something like that unless somebody teaches you? Like, we can't be prepared for what to do with our generational wealth if nobody ever taught us. Like, financial literacy is huge. So I can leave my son a house, 2 houses. I can leave him $1 million. I can leave him $10 million. But if he doesn't know anything about financial wealth or literacy, he's financially illiterate, then all he's going to do is just spend it. You know, I mean, right now, you talked about it a couple shows ago. You asked Elijah, you know, hey, if I gave you $1 million, what would you do? You said he had to spend it 6 months.
6 months, it was gone. He done bought and sold the house twice. The same house. He bought it twice and sold it twice in less than a 6-month period.
My boy wouldn't have made it to 6 months. So you got me beat right there, because I already see the way he spends money. He'd be out in 6 weeks. You know what I'm saying?
So man, hey, listen, I think this is time well spent. I think we all need to pay attention to what was going on throughout this entire episode with the message not happening. This is some powerful stuff. I know I'm taking a couple things right now in order to better my legacy, up from the top down to the bottom and through me. Right? Like this is some powerful stuff, man. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys who have checked in, man. Shouts out for engaging the conversation. I still didn't see anyone put what Anna said to put in there, so I don't know. Maybe I'll have to give it away to someone on the replay. Remember, guys, I said I was giving away this book, the 4 Agreements. I'm giving away the 4 Agreements, so you got to go back and look through the episode to see what Anna puts up, or if she's really nice, she might put it up again. I'm not sure.
And you know what? One of the 4 agreements is be impeccable with your word. And that's what we're talking about today. Yeah. We're talking about that. We're talking about, fathers, be impeccable with your word. You trying to figure out what that's all about, you need to read the book.
Yeah, read the book. Messina says she got it. She got it. Guys, I love you. I'm done. Go ahead, brother.
I love it too. Listen, y'all, it's come around that time where we're getting ready to close on out. We truly thank you for joining in on the Community Beacon. We've had a wonderful time tonight, and we've enjoyed all of your conversation, everything that you brought to the table. We've enjoyed you. Shout out to all of you all who checked in with us today, both online as well as personally. We definitely appreciate you, and we hope and pray that you've enjoyed this. Please, everyone, remember that Community Beacon, what we are here for is to give these types of messages so that the lessons that we've learned and the lessons that we share may help somebody to access a freer mindset and actually gain liberty inside of their lives, whereby they are able to excel to the highest state of themselves and even go beyond that, as well as ourselves. We hope and pray that you will continue to join in with us. So remember, we're here every single Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and we want you all to subscribe, follow, like, and share. All right? Hit that bell thing so you get a notification and know when we're starting. All right? Tune in next week as we will continue Happy Father's Month. And what's the topic of next week, brother? What was that? Do you remember, Anna?
Oh, man.
We'll be continuing Happy Father's Month. And I'm sorry I don't have my notes up with me right now because all the electricity went down.
Rights, stress, and relationships.
Rights, stress, and relationship. We won't get into it because listen, Fathers, I know you go through stress. That was one of my first things that I said when it was time to talk about this. So I know it happens. I know it happens. All right, so bear with us. All right, and we'll be back again. God bless you all. Have a beautiful night. Remember, that's Michael Seville, your real estate king, and I'm Joel Simmons, the motivatorpreneur, saying peace and good night.